Welcome to Kung Fu Havoc number 2. This is the 5th video of Identity Crisis. When I left off, I was talking about how other people had mistaken me for other races. I will try to make this my final video, so I'm going to try to make all my points right now. Alright, so when I started going to Piedmont, there was a Filipino lady who ran a computer shop. I will leave her name off. It starts with a C. Anyway, she thought I was Filipino. I had some other school teachers that wasn't sure what I was, so it didn't really become an issue because they didn't ask personal questions. In one class, I had some students. One girl was a Mexican, but she was Chinese. And then we had 3 people from Vietnam in the same class, and my report was on Japan and World War II. And before I decided to do that, because the only way I can tell Asians apart is by last names. Sorry if I just offended anybody who's Asian. It's not my fault. I just want you to know that some Asian names are interchangeable and some Lees are actually Korean and not Chinese. Okay? Because Lee, Chang, Chu, Chen, Chao, and even Zhang can be transferred over to Korea due to, like, I think either occupational errors or some shit like that. It's a long story, but for every Asian nation that has an occupation, most of them have made the Asian of the lower level country take their last names. And sometimes it was by force, not by course. So that being said, I had to do a report on World War II, and I was gonna sadly have to bash Japan. And the reason why I say sadly was because my first martial art was Japanese karate, and it's gotten me really, really far. And I really love Japanese karate, but I had to talk about Fat Man and Little Boy, which is the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I didn't want to do what I had to do, but so me and the teacher had a talk after class, and I was like, dude, you have some Asians in here. I want to talk to them before I go bashing Japan. And they were like, it's like, okay, you sure you want to do that? And I was like, dude, I have to do that because, respectful or not, what I'm about to say about Japan brings up hurtful memories. Luckily, for that class, there was no one there that was from Japan. There were no Japanese kids there. The Mexican girl who looked Chinese, the 2 friends that I had that were from Vietnam, and then there was a Korean fella. So, I was good. I was good. I wasn't insulting their countries, I was just insulting Japan. So, not that that's anything to be proud of, because insulting people is not cool on any level. So, I had to go do my report. But before I did my report, like a week before I did my report, I started talking to all the Asian students in the class. And I was like, look, I have to ask you this. It's killing me to ask you. So please forgive me because I'm multicultural, so I know that this is going to be an offensive ass question. But I'm going to ask you this offensive ass question because I had to do a report on Japan, and I want to make sure that I don't offend anybody. Are you from Japan? And 2 guys like, nah, dude, we're from Vietnam. We don't fucking like Japan. Say what the fuck you want about Japan. We don't give a fuck. And this is when I found out that Asian people cuss a lot. I did not know that Asian people cuss a lot up until I seen the Black Mass movie with Jet Li. Excuse me. I didn't know Asian people cuss that much. Excuse me again. I really didn't. I thought that they were all prim and polite because every Asian that I've ever met has been overly polite. I'm sorry if I just offended anybody who was Asian with that, but that shit's true. Y'all are exceptionally polite. So anyway, I got to talking to them, and I got to the roster. Then I got to the Chinese-looking girl who was actually a Mexican, which is another reason why I didn't understand why it was so easy for me to not know that Native Americans were Asian, because Mexicans are Native American. So I come to talk to her, and I said, look, I need to know what Asian hemisphere you're from, because I have to say some really, really bad shit about Japan, and I don't want to offend you if you're Japanese. And she looked at me like I was crazy, and she got mad, and she cracked a smile and said, you look more Chinese than I do. And then she walked off, and I gave the teacher a thumbs up. So the next day, I did my damn report. I had to get special permission to bring my sabatu to school because I was going to do pros and cons of Japan. And I did all the cons first. And I talked about how we had to pay them back for Pearl Harbor, and we dropped the bomb on innocent cities. We dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. We dropped the bomb on Nagasaki. I had to type all this shit out. So I had all this shit typed out before I did the report, which is why I had to ask those guys before I did my report what was offensive and what was not offensive. And so I did my report, and then I got to do the Sabatu demonstration. I said, well, as a martial artist, I had to get special permission to bring this here. So I brought my Sabatu in so I could show you guys some martial art moves. So I showed them some martial art moves, and then I took the Sabatu back to the car because I could only have the Sabatu long enough to do the demonstration, and security did not want that damn thing in the building. Not that the Sabatu could hurt anybody, because actually it probably could. It's made out of wood. It's like, you guys have seen the damn thing. Anyway, if you haven't, my videos are here and on TikTok. So, I got to do that, and then I got like a B after all that. I got a B after all my hard work. But I was happy because I didn't really get a lot of B's in high school outside of English class and history. So, I took care of that, and we were all good after that. And so, other students, as I said, Hannah and Joe, the other ones who were from Vietnam. Then I had a friend named Quo who was also from Vietnam. And all of them were trying to figure out what the hell I was, because they was like, what are you mixed with? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, you look like one of us. It's like, no, I'm nothing like you guys. Because again, at this time, I have no idea that Native Americans are Asian, like at all. I just think that they're just from Atlantis, because that's what I thought we were always from. Because, you know, magical Atlantis, scientifically smart and all that shit. But I was completely wrong, because Native Americans are from Asia. Anyway, so somewhere I forgot that. Miss Conrad had taught us that, but somewhere I forgot that. Between high school and college, I totally forgot that shit. And probably most of the world as well. So, I had to explain to them, because Joe tried to hook me up with his sister Hannah, but I wasn't her type. And I met another Hannah while I was working at the Colony Hotel at the university while I was growing my ponytail. And sadly, she had a boyfriend, so that ruined that. But she told me if she didn't have a boyfriend, I would have been top on the list. And she went off to become a school teacher, so I have no idea where she is now. Hello, Hannah, number one, because I met her first, actually. Hello, Hannah, number two, and your brother, Joe. Anyway, so then, you know, as time went on, it started happening a whole lot. So this whole identity crisis thing was like, it carried on from grade school to college, and it never really stopped. And so when I go certain places, they're like, okay, well, you're mixed. What are you mixed with? I met a girl from Hawaii once who was Polynesian, and she thought I was Polynesian. And she said, are you from Hawaii? And I said, no. She's like, are you sure? I said, ma'am, let me tell you something. If I was from Hawaii, there's no way in hell that you could drag me out of Hawaii. If I was to live in Hawaii and I had to be a bum on the streets, there's no way in hell I would leave Hawaii to come to a place where it fucking snows and gets colder than fuck. There's no way in hell I would live here. If I was from Hawaii, you couldn't drag me out of Hawaii. Sharks couldn't get me out of Hawaii. They'd probably eat me, but they couldn't get me out of Hawaii. And I was like, yeah, if I was Hawaiian, I wouldn't even come here for school. He said, where would you go for school? University of Hawaii, baby. It's like, what? You would go to Oahu State? And I said, yep. It's like, why? I was like, it's fucking Hawaii. It's like, well, I'm from Hawaii. It's not all that. I said, you know why it's not all that? Because you were born there and you wanted something other than paradise. Well, I was born here in Virginia and I want something other than suffering in the wintertime. Well, we don't get snow in Hawaii. Yes! It's like, we get hurricanes though. I was like, I can live with the rain. I like rain. I hate fucking snow. And the reason I said that is because I used to train every day in the rain. Whenever it rained, you'd find me outside with metal weapons. So I was really trying to piss off God to see if he would strike me with lightning. I would train with metal nunchucks, you name it. If it had metal in it, I was outside training with that shit. If it was raining, I trained for hours in that shit. And the good thing about training in rain is that you don't sweat like talking about it. I mean, you sweat, but it's nice and it's wet and it's covered with rain, which washes off the sweat and the stench. So, you know, when you were mixed, I gotta bring it around now, because we're like 5 videos in. I have to bring it around now. When you are mixed, you are faced with more identity crisis than you will ever be if you're not. And that counts if you're biracial. Oh, my God, call you up. Sorry, it's really, really big time here. Because it's like 1 something in the morning. It's like 1:30, so I need to wrap this up. When you are mixed, you will face identity crisis due to peer pressure. You will face identity crisis due to cliques that you're in, because color wheel, and that would lead to a lot of identity crisis. So I'm going to give you a good example. So I'm about to close this out because we're 10 minutes and some change in, and I'm going to get this Kit Kat. You guys are going to watch me eat it. I watched Broken Tooth on a Kit Kat. It took me a while to go back to eating them. It's a long time ago. I take better care of my teeth, believe me. So, you have identity crisis in your cliques that you hang in because they bring this shit to the forefront. Most mixed kids have a hard time making friends, or in my case, have a harder time keeping them when they find out that your ass is mixed. That's when having friends becomes a problem. It's also when you find out who your real friends are. Yes, I just wiped that melted chocolate on my pants. I'm going to do it one more time. I have 2 bars left. So, the whole thing about that. Now, when you're mixed, fitting in, being accepted, that's an everything problem, regardless of your race. But when you're mixed, it's twice as hard. Remember I said I was once called a zebra. And I was once called a patty. Never been called a Kit Kat. But a lot of mixed issues come from people who are not mixed. We have no understanding of what it's like to be mixed. And that's always going to be a thing. So, in 2040, if I finally made it to fame and you're watching this and you're mixed, first, don't want chocolate on your jeans. It might not come off. Second, pick your friends wisely and be proud of who you are. And if you're mixed, explore your heritage a lot more. Because my family never explored our heritage. My dad would talk about certain shit, but he wouldn't go through with it. Then he died. So kudos to that, because he fucking died. So that stopped a lot of shit right there. But I had my hip replacement before my dad died in my car. And I was here. I couldn't drive because of the drugs I was on. We planned on going to the reservation to go pay our respects to his great-grandmother, or better yet, my great-grandmother, his grandmother. I don't know why I got that twisted up. Must have been a Kit Kat. But we got to talking. We got to talking actually before the hip replacement. And I said, Dad, I would like to go see my great-grandmother, your grandma's grave. Because I could go to my grandmother's grave because she's buried in Smithfield. But his grandmother went back home to the reservation. So, I don't really know how that worked. But I guess her people outweighed her children and her grandchildren's wishes. And so she got buried back at home. Her home. So, This is gonna go over 15 minutes. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm not gonna make a 6th video. I'm gonna stop this video right here at this video. The legality of that, I guess, kind of got twisted somewhere because I don't really know how to explain it because it wasn't really explained to me. But being that she was of the Powhite with a Powhite reservation in Richmond, which like outside of Richmond or some shit like that. Um, I don't really know what the laws of that was because she was full-blooded Cherokee. Grandma Ada was buried there instead of buried in Smithfield, where Grandma Bay was buried. And Grandma Bay is buried next to Grandma Bay's kids, like my Aunt Ruth's sisters, Peewee and Teen. I think they're buried by her. But my Uncle Bruce is buried way across the fucking field. Excuse me. I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. And so Dad and I have been talking, and this is like before my Uncle Bruce had got into his little stuff, and he died. Because he died a year before my father died. So my Uncle Bruce, um, Uncle Bruce, Dad was like really tight. So Dad and I was talking. I was like, Dad, you know, before I die, I want to go visit Grandma Ada's grave. He's like, yeah, we should do that. And then we found out I needed a hip replacement, so that kind of blew all our plans out the water. So it was like, okay, well, after we take this hip replacement, we'll figure out how we're gonna do that. The problem was, when we found out I had to have a hip replacement, we found out that the shit was gonna probably kill me. So that was like the be all of all things. So the doctor's like, all right, this is what's gonna happen. You're going to go have all your wisdom teeth removed. You're going to have something else done. I forgot what it was, but it had something to do with my mouth. So I had to get all that. Oh yeah, it was the other tooth that they gave me an implant for. So I had to get all the remnants of that out of my mouth. And then they were gonna cut me open. And I'm like, okay, what do y'all have to fuck with my mouth? Because my wisdom teeth were fine. They were not like coming in bad. They were never hurting. They were awesome. It's like, all that shit's gotta go. I said, but there's nothing wrong with it. I said, you need this hip replacement or you're never gonna walk again. And we don't want to kill you while trying to save you so that you can walk again. So, okay, what does that mean? They said, you can die from an infection. So we need to get your fucking mouth fixed right now. And so we got our mouth fixed, and then we got our ass cut. And then my dad died within a month after my surgery. 2 months, actually. Yeah, he died in March. I had my surgery in December, like the week or two before Christmas, so early December. January, I was on drugs. February, I was on drugs. March, he died, and I got off drugs, like, really quickly. Now, understand when I say I'm on drugs, I mean painkillers prescribed by the doctor. I was not really trying to take them, like, talking about it, because the first time I took them, because I wasn't allowed to drive, the first time I took them, they had me sleeping for, like, 14 hours. Like, literally 14 hours. And I told my doctor, you know, you gotta the dosage or something, because whatever's going on here, I'm sleeping for 14 hours. Like, literally 14 hours. I get up only to go to the bathroom. Am I eating? Maybe. I don't remember eating. All I know is I go to bed, I get back up. I go to bed, I get back up. What do I do when I get up? Who the hell knows? Then I had to go to rehab. Well, rehab had to come to me, so I went from super pretty nurse, granny nurse. I was like, wow, how bad is my breath that these beautiful girls keep leaving me? So then after that, I get a call, and my dad has died, and I'm like, what? But they don't tell me my dad's dead. They just tell me I need to come to Richmond. I'm like, dude, I just got out of the hospital a couple of months ago. I am on drugs. I cannot drive. So I need to know if he's dead or if he's alive. Because if he's dead, I can get there. I can take my time because I'm not going to be the one driving because I'm on drugs. And these painkillers make me sleepy. Like literally, you eat a full meal with them, and I almost guarantee you, within 3 minutes of your meal hitting your gut, like you've cleaned your plate, gone. And that was on my third dosage because, and in fact, they switched my pills twice because the first thing, whatever the hell they gave me, they were pinkish, and those some bitches knocked you out. The second thing they gave me were like white, and they had those motherfuckers knocked me out too. And then they gave me some little yellow ones, and they were still making me sleep excessively long. So they had to cut them in half. And it's like, you got to start cutting them in half if you're worried about them. And then when my dad died, those pills were gone. I don't even know where the hell they are. I don't remember throwing them away, but I know I don't have them. And so, within that, I went to go and meet my dad and saw his body and all that shit. And, and my stepsister, that kind of shit. So it was interesting times, But I know you're thinking, what does that have to do with you being mixed? I'm gonna bring it all around now. So I had to talk to a black doctor. He wasn't really sure this guy was my actual dad. I was like, yo, he's my dad. And it's like, well, where's your mom? I was like, my mom's not here. My big sister and I are here because my big sister drove me down there, and my younger sister rode with us. So we we handled that issue, and then we cremated him, and we handled that issue. And again, I'm pretty sure that when they saw my family on his side, my Aunt Hook was there, and cousin Sherry and all them were there, and it's like, yeah, your family's like totally different. So yeah, being mixed, you have a different conglomerate of shit that you will face being mixed, and it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that other people other people twist the stuff around. And for me, it has always been a problem with either proving that I was black or proving that I had enough Native American in me or whatever. So now I have to prove that I have enough Native American in me for school. So now that they have the DNA test, so I have to either get a 23andMe or Ancestry, which I'm probably going to wind up doing both because I'm going to have to submit them to both the Native American Bureau of Indian Affairs and to the Cherokee Nation. So yeah, if the Cherokee Nation accepts me, and I'm not doing this to get a check, I'm doing this for acknowledgement so the Native American Bureau of Indian Affairs can help me with schooling, just in case I have to stay in school longer than I want to. But it would give me a better shot at having discounts, and they'd probably be like, okay, well, you can still in school, but you may have to go to this school out in California or somewhere where we'll put you up. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. If they're going to put me up in something, because I don't have a home, if they're going to put me up, then I'm more than ready to go. But, the the whole thing with that is also that, we have to, we have to think about these things. Sorry, Total Recall, the original. We have to think about these things when it comes down to your life, especially if you're multicultural. If you are mixed or multicultural, these are things that you are going to face on a daily basis. So let's wrap it up because we're at the 25-minute mark. So let's wrap it up because this started with a post from someone saying something bad to Mia Yim from the WWE, and that being said, she clapped back, and that was great of her. That's how we got here. But when you are mixed, and I will tell you offhand from experience, when you are mixed, it is a is an interesting thing that you have to deal with due to the fact that, people are just evil. You know, people don't really think before we speak. We all tend to just say what the hell's on our mind or what we want versus maybe we should have thought that shit through before we got to talking. And most of the time, we don't do that. We just say what the hell's on our mind, and it doesn't help that we speak before we think. So whatever comes out of your lips, you more than likely meant to say it on some level or another, and you will say it. So kudos to Mia Yim. And finally, you know, as a person who grew up probably a lot in a different time than Mia Yim, it was becoming acceptable for my generation, for Generation X, to have more mixed people than not mixed people, if that makes sense for y'all. Which it probably doesn't, but either way you slice it, when you're mixed, you have how do we say this politely? Okay. You have levels of racism that you will have to confront. Alright? So, in your levels of racism, and depending on what race of person you are speaking with, some people will be sensitive, and some people will not be sensitive. Some people will be empathetic and sympathetic, versus some people will just be straight asshats. So, another example of that, most of my racist experience have been from black people. I've had maybe 2 bad Asian experiences, and maybe 3 or 5 bad experiences from white people. And the thing with that is that you have to understand that ignorance has its cutoff point. Some people will ask you ignorant shit when you're mixed just because they don't know. And some people will ask you ignorant shit because they don't give a shit. But you have to learn how to tolerate people's ignorance. You have to learn how to adjust yourself during a conversation. In one of the stories that I put up on this thing, there was a very beautiful Native American girl. And the first time that I hadn't heard the term, he's not pure blood, it fucked me up because I really liked that girl. And whoever her guardian or her handler was at the time was like, and he literally sent her away and spoke to me. And he said, look, you can't be talking to her because you're not pure blood. And she is like the daughter of the chief. So you can't really be fronting, fraternizing, cooperating, collaborating. You just can't be talking to her because she's a person of high critique, where you're first you're Cherokee and you're not even a full-blooded Cherokee. Second, I mean, that kind of hurt me because she could have been my future wife, and I never ever got to see her again. And she was a little bit handicapped. She had a leg issue, and it kind of hurt me because I was like, this girl was very beautiful, and I couldn't talk to this girl. She was a few years younger. She was legal because I was well into my 20s. I was like almost 30, and she was like maybe about to hit 20, 21, somewhere in there. She was legal. And I was like, damn, this dude just like shut me down. He didn't even like give me a chance, didn't even get to know me. He's just like, you're part nigger, so you're not gonna be fucking with us. And I was like, yeah, okay. So whatever tribe that came from, he didn't really have an open mind. The fact that I'm part tribal didn't mean shit to him. And things like that, they tend to carry with you wherever you go, especially when you're multicultural, when you're mixed. You have these things. And a couple of months ago, one of Chris Brown's baby mamas was outed for being Asian and black, but not Native American and black, and she said she was Blasian because she was black with Cherokee blood and all this other shit, because she was like ashamed of her Thai heritage. Well, again, as I gave you your history lesson in video 1, and I give this history lesson in damn near every video I make, Native Americans are Asian. So, technically, she might not have been Native American, but she still was Asian, and Native Americans are Asian. So she could have just told the truth from the jump. Plus, most black people in the world, here's your news flash, most of you are more than likely mixed with either a Native American tribe, and you don't know it, like I was, or you're mixed with a white person's family line, which we were, which we did know. We just don't really bring that shit up at the dinner table. Keep things like this in mind, and keep things in mind that people don't always know how to approach people. In fact, let me get into that because I'm in the entertainment business, kind of. I'm trying to break in. I've been trying to break in for 19 years, and I failed for 19 years. The problem with your approach, all right? If you approach mixed people, approach them respectfully, and try to be like, look, I don't want to offend you. That's kind of the best approach that I've gotten most of the time because, most people aren't blunt about this, but, most people I've met have always came in with me at, I don't want to offend you, but can I ask you what you are mixed with? That is very respectful, and I have given them answers where other people are like, dude, what you mixed with? That's not bad, but it's not really highly recommended. Now, you kind of want people to respect you regardless of your ethnicity or your heritage, but at the same time, you still want to not be an ass about when you reveal it to them. You're like, okay, let's just put it out there. I'm multicultural. I am of Cherokee, black, and white descent. If you ask me which one I feel closer related to these days, I feel closer related to my Cherokee side only because I didn't get to do anything Cherokee in my entire life. We never got to do any river dances. We never got to do any wind festival things and shit that I've never even fucking heard of. We never got to do any of that shit. Grandma Ada dropped the ball. Grandma Marie never got the chance to know about that side. And that covers my mother and my father's side. Grandma Biggest, Grandma Ada's daughter, all she did was cook pancakes with corn in it, which is another reason why I don't fucking like corn. Um, I got bit by a horse when I was 7, so I'm not really fond of horses. I'm dreadfully afraid of them, and that when I say that, people are like, "But you're part Native American." I said that does not change the fact that I am scared of horses. There's very few things that I fear: horses, needles, and a drunken bar fight because I know kung fu is pretty much it. Outside of that, I mean, I could care two shits. But, the problem with that is most people's approach are is pretty bad, you know. And when they have a bad approach, it doesn't help you one bit to have a bad approach and not be able to recover from it. But like I said, when you have everything and everyone approaches you with a sense of respect and kindness, it's a lot easier for you to carry on a conversation. Now, for you mixed kids that are watching this, and Mia Yim, if you're watching, because you've already been through this shit, and you'll probably still go through it a few more years in your life. I'm in my 40s, so definitely, when you're mixed, the world will look at you in an enigmatic factor or enigmatic factor because we do exist and people's stories and histories are all different. Uh, my dad's mom was Cherokee. His mom's mom was Cherokee. So, that being said, you explain it that way. My mom's mom was Native American. My mom's dad was mixed with black and white. So you explain it the best you can. Where people choose to go from there is what decides if the content is going to be racist, or if it's going to be offensive, if it's going to be insulting. And as a person of mixed ethnicity, you have to learn how to deal with that shit. Because if you don't, you'll be dealt with. So, in your approach, you have to always be mindful of what is necessary. Yeah. But you also have to learn how to receive a person's encroachment on your ethnicity, or how to receive a person's response, if you would. No. Now, I say it that way because it's really kind of hard to break down and describe. Plus, this thing's like 45 minutes long. Let's just say that you're going to have to take it slow. Oh. So, as I close out, it is February. And by the time this airs, it'll probably be like on a Monday or something, because I haven't posted any of these videos. But by the time you see this, they will be posted. Black History Month. What does it mean? It is a time where in school, if they're teaching it right, it will turn a lot of your friends who are not of color into fear-mongered kids and about slavery. But Black History Month is not all just about slavery. However, for the most part, Black History Month definitely zones in on slavery and black slave heroes, which is okay, but if not taught correctly, it can lead to the failure of friendships with your your non-black friends, and some of your black friends. So before I go, I want to interject one thing that I learned in college in history class. First and foremost, there has not been a ethnicity on earth that has not had a slave story. They had white slaves. They were called indentured servants. You will rarely learn about them this month in Black history class. They had black slaves. It was straight up slaves. They had Native American and Asian slaves. And for you to not know that is why history has been taught cockeyed. But you will learn that throughout history, there has been more than simple black slavery. And top that off, even blacks had black slaves. So to close out with that, while you guys are going into Black History Month, history is history. History will always be a mystery. And history is written by those who won the fucking war. Keep that in mind. I'm James Williams Jr., Kung Fu Epic number 2. Hope you enjoyed all 5 videos. I'm sorry that this one went to like 40 some odd minutes versus the other ones being 15 minutes. I didn't want to make 6 videos. To be honest, I really didn't want to make 6 videos. I get off track a little bit. I get back on track. I bring it back around. And the reason that happens is because sometimes, for a couple of videos, I was watching Spider-Man. And this one, I'm watching Total Recall, the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But not only am I sleepy, but it gets emotional when you relive racial incidences that happen to you. If you've never been a victim of racism, you would never understand how deep that flows. For Mia Yim to address that, it means a lot to me because she's one of the only biracial people in the WWE. If there's more, I don't really know who they are. But I know Mia Yim's mixed. I know that The Rock is mixed. You don't really get to know who else is really mixed, But we all know that The Rock is part Samoan and part black, and he has triple citizenship because his dad was Canadian, his mom was Samoan, and he was born here in America, which means he has American citizenship, Canadian citizenship, and he's royalty basically in Samoa, so he has Samoan citizenship. I don't have that luxury, although I have 3 different ethnicities: white, black, and Native American. No matter how you slice that, it's still all American. So there's no royalties here. I'm pretty sure I did not descend from a chief of a tribe, of either tribe, and the royalties that we do have here collectively isn't like the royal family over in England. Now, have you know, cool fun fact before I end this video, we did have Native American princes and chiefs and queens and hierarchies and shit like that. But when the Europeans took over, gunpowder put a pretty good end to all of that shit. So people who are chiefs in tribes now, if not by bloodline, then by election, but not like the election that you have to do to get the president. So just keep things like that in mind. Thank you guys for watching. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing you. I'm going to bed.